So, hello, beautiful beings. I'm super and beyond words excited to introduce you all to MiraKle King, founder of Coherent University, a true visionary, and I resonate a lot with all you see and all you are here to bring forth and create. And I'd love for you to get to know a little bit of what we are bringing forth into this time and here on Earth. So first of all, Coherent University is, I would say, built around the Coherent Living Model, something that immediately moved me, and I believe many of you once you get to see it. So could you just briefly introduce or give a snippet of what Coherent University and the Coherent Living Model is about?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie. So, aloha, everyone. I'm MiraKle King, and I am the lead alchemist, or I mentally rehearse Coherent University every morning and live in it, no matter where I am on this planet. And I think really, it's a great question. The Coherent Living Model, or CLM. CLM was birthed out of the holographic living model and work with a woman named MiraKle and Michael Chapman back in 2004 and 2005. And so really what it's based is how to essentially how to come together and collectively organize and collectively govern from a place of self, but not from a place of being self-fulfilling the ego, but how to actually come into self-fulfilling the overflow of our connection to source. And each of us have our own unique way of connecting into alignment with source, right? Different practices, but how to actually do that from a place of being that first in relationship with other individuals. And obviously there's many ways. There's you look at the world today, we're looking at the different models of governance. We're looking at the things that are actually not working. We're looking at the corporations and the governments of the world. And obviously we're seeing this more than ever before since the coronavirus, what I call the plandemic, right? Or some people call it the scamdemic. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that we're seeing the fallacy of this illusion of the fact that this world of the matrix is no longer working for human beings. You know, it's not working for human beings that have a soul, that are choosing to continue to be on this path and to help support not only future generations, but for future generations to have a planet that's based on coherent living. And we have to come back to these baseline foundational principles because the planet is changing very drastically. And whether it's environmentally, whether it's ecologically, and we have to start thinking beyond the collective ego. So the collective ego is up right now. We had all this time in the last 2 decades to really work on individual ego and maybe familial ego and then tribal ego, but now it's collective planetary ego. And so we're really at a massive crossroads. The vision of Coherent University was gifted to me by Archangel Michael back in 2003 on a dry fast desert vision quest in Southern California. I was told that we would have all this time of the potential to actualize this by the year 2022. So we haven't made it there, but in that vision quest, I had an out-of-body experience which led me as my guide through Archangel Michael, Lord Michael, into the future, into the year 2022, back in 2003. And the world had changed very drastically. The waters had risen. Here in California, all the way down to Baja, there was hardly any landmass. And here, now, we're in Mount Shasta, this was a giant island. And this is where I was shown a very coherently aligned Coherent University. So Communiversity is pronounced like Communiversity, but it's actually spelled Ka-mu-niversity. Ka-mu means the great silence after union in ancient Hawaiian, which actually really births the universe. So if we can come into that great silence with ourselves, we are creating coherency. And then from there, we're looking at how do we create coherency with others. So what we found is the best way, the next step out of silence or out of that still point or 0 point is to look at how does the universe communicate with other members of universal beings within the omniverse. Well, they use geometry. They use these basic tenets, which are not currently what we use in our society, because we use basically, well, we do use geometry, we use boxes and pyramids, but we're not using all of the geometry. So the universe speaks to us in an unconscious way. What I mean by that is in the dream states, right? In the lucid states. And of course, we can consciously, facilitate geometry or use geometry through sound frequency, through movement, through meditation, through drawing. But really, when we bring the sacred into it, we can then start to find ways that start to change not only what's happening on the inside in our innerology. Instead of outside technology, we're using the innerology to really create a whole new reality and collectively mentally rehearse what's possible. Okay? And that's what's exciting about it. So the CLM is based on a particular geometry called the stellated dodecahedron. And this has been proven by, incredible physicists as well as leading edge scientists that have studied the nature of the universe. And they have found that the unconscious languaging of the universe is the stellated dodecahedron. So stellated dodecahedron has 12 faces, okay? So our model has to have 12 beings to sort of kickstart it. It essentially can start with 6, but 12 is the ideal unit principle number. So when you co-create with 12, this frequency and this energy actually align with the stellated dodecahedron, creates a coherent living field of energy. And this field then becomes thriving, alive, and if you can get all of everyone from like an individual, like we're 2 individuals, instead of like I seeing, we're we seeing. Okay? Instead of like I thinking, we're we thinking. Instead of like I sensing, we're we sensing or we intuiting. Instead of I, doing, it's we doing. Instead of I being, it's we being. Okay, so all of these things, from sort of the conceptual all the way to the feelings, all the way from using, the pineal gland to inner sea, to all the way to actually doing and creating and establishing these regenerative structures and creating these amazing technologies that are supported on the collective field from what's happening inside. So instead of what's, obviously in the last couple of years, and it's been on the radar, sort of in the mainstream, especially tech, is this concept of artificial intelligence and virtual realities, all outside of self, and robots, and, neural links inside the brain, all of these chips, and, what all this vaccine, passports, all this dialogue, all this fear, uncertainty, doubt around travel. Artificial intelligence is propelling us to go into this smart world concept, all right, with all of our 30,000 satellites all around, creating electrosmog, all of these things that are propelling us into this kind of like cyborg, bio-robot, dystopian experience of what, a lot of people are afraid of, okay? But there is a way that we can actually merge and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but actually go inside and realize that there is a middle way with all of this. And through creating bioorganic plasma intelligence, okay, instead of artificial intelligence, we're actually moving into an inner evolutionary pattern that allows our innerology to come out, okay, which is an intelligence that naturally exhibits coherent living properties and principles. And it creates a value point that we can all synergize around. And that is how can we create a whole new system, a whole new model, okay, of living for the next 1,000 generations into the future. Because we have to think about that far out into the timeline. And so, you know, I am a time traveler, or like I like to say I'm a now traveler, okay? Because time doesn't exist, okay? It's an illusion, and we're all seeing that. And yet, there are forces out of ignorance and confusion who are trying to compress time, that are trying to force people to stay in time. Stay in the box, stay in time, take your jab, take it, get on the program. These forces out of ignorance and confusion, okay, because the only way they know is to control. The only way they know is to manipulate. The only way they know is that they are the ones that are holding the power and everyone else are powerless. That's the way they think. But they are few and we are many. So the thing is that if the many can start to wake up and move their energy into the CLM, move into this desire to co-create not just community, okay, but alignment, okay? And not just alignment as a singular force, but a collective field of aligned beings. This is our future now.
Yes, absolutely. And I do believe, again, that many of you, if you're connected to me, that you will so resonate with what you just shared. So many of you have been feeling this. There must be another way of living. There must be another way of operating, dreaming of this new earth. Yet for many it stays in a dreamlike way, or still as a utopian way. So you are really bringing it into form and into a model based on these, call it, universal principles. And then yet, I feel like this more than ever is the time to bring the vision and even the model into embodiment and into living it and creating it. So that is why we're also together, and it is time together. And I believe we are both calling in beings that want to meet this vision. And yet, I like to ask you about what we talked about before, about we're not here to repeat community, for example, because there's such a difference with what this model and the vision, this alternative, is inviting us all into, versus so many have that desire for community and to come together. And yet, yeah, I know that you know what I'm talking about. So, which I would also call as a shift from healing and just wanting to be together and having our needs met together and healing our trauma together. Like, yes, this is an important part, yet it cannot end there. So I'd love to hear your seeing on that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we've talked about this extensively. So I'll just be really frank. Like, people
Please.
ask me all the time, hey, MiraKle, Communiversity, what is it, a new community? We want to create a community. And what I tell them is, I say, fuck community. Like, literally. Like, I'm not here to show up for this gathering, for this symposium, for this, organization to help create community. What I've found over walking the earth in many different timelines and many different iterations, and my most recent one, I did a sabbatical for a year, went to 18 countries, I was guided to many sacred sites, held space with many different masters, ceremonies, indigenous leaders, many communities. And I would say the same thing. There has to be a point where you're not here to create community, because everyone who chooses to try to create community fails. It doesn't work. All right? There's all kinds of community. There's yoga communities. There's, I want to do a healing retreat center. I'm going to create a community. I want to grow hemp and maybe, create a community. I want to, and most of it's out of survival. Most of it's either very super hippy dippy, or people are not actually aligning. And so when I said that Alignment. I'm here for alignment. The coherent living model is about alignment. And it's also very much about each individual choosing, a self-fulfilling mastery from the heart and from, a coherent brain and body and soul connection, and a willingness to completely surrender. A surrender that's not just about like, oh, well, I want to have my survival mechanism, which is my day job, which makes me all my money, and oh, I want to have all my, creature comforts and all the things that, make me feel safe in the matrix, and then I'm going to be able to then jump into, oh, but I really, really want a new community. Like, let's get together and get land and get all my friends together and let's do community. And what I found is those things just completely implode. Or there's major internal processes, trauma, suffering, betrayal, manipulation. And believe me, I've been part of many communities. And I'm still part of communities. And in this sense, I'm not directly focusing my energy on those things any longer because I'm focusing on alignment, Coherent Living Model, CLM, and Coherent University. And so from this, it's been, I would say, it's funny because I hold a really deep and I would say more expanded space. And, in my becoming MiraKle King, it's almost like I'm very invisible. And at the same time, when someone actually sees me and I come in, then it's like the real work starts. And I think alignment versus creating community is the key component, because when you have 6 to 12 individuals or 24 or 36 or 48 or 144 come together and create singular alignment, and then a co-actualization of alignment occurs, I'm sorry to say, but community goes out the door. Because community actually doesn't form until way later. Community is like the fruit of thy labor.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yes.
Like it becomes like part of going to the bathroom, or except we're all going to the bathroom. It's like riding a bike. Once you learn, we're all riding the bike. We don't need to try to ride a bike.
Yes.
We don't need to try to go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? It's like it becomes part of the unconscious habitual pattern.
Yes.
And so it's the fruit. So you can't go to the fruit and think, oh, the fruit's going to be the thing. No, it doesn't work like that. Sorry, fuck that. What we need to do is we actually need to create alignment. We need to get into the roots. We need to get into the seeds. And from there, that's where is how are we aligning? And what does our alignment structure look like? So that's where the coherent living model comes. And you could say the coherent living model is a basis. It's a foundational basis. It's governance, it's organization, but it forces you to look at all the parts where, you want all these things, but everyone just wants the fruit. Everyone wants just to eat the fruit. They want to smell the fruit. They want to taste the fruit. They want to see the fruit. They want to see the most beautiful thing. They don't actually want to see the shit. They don't want to actually start in the mud and the dirt and the regenerative solutions that are needed right now. There are many different people right now that are coming back to normalization. It's not normal. People are trying to do festivals and trying to do, all these things are coming back, right? As things unlocked. Especially here in the States, but all around the world. But it's not normal anymore. That's an illusion. We are going to have things come out of the blue, so to speak, that are going to challenge us even more directly than just what we went through in the last year and a half with the coronavirus and this, planned demonic pandemic situation. We have to prepare. We can prepare with great love. We can prepare with great joy, with great authentic happiness, with great service to a collective field. But that's where the relational artistry is going to come in. That's where we're going to have to own all the different aspects of ourselves that are still in judgment, that are still in disgust and despair, and you're able to navigate all these because you have a safe box that you live in. You know, you have a job, or you're trying to get a job, and you're trying to be safe. You know, whether or not you choose to get the vaccine or not, like all of these things are coming up, but really these are moot points when it comes to actually choosing to align and co-create a whole new living system. This takes great fearlessness, this takes great courage, but now's the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So beautiful. Just one more piece I want to bring in before I feel like it's time to lay the invitation on the table. Because I feel like this is such an important pivotal point in our own personal and then what leads to our collective journey is the importance of surrender and living in the unknown. Because you just mentioned safety, right? We all cling on so much to safety. Mm-hmm. And then there's this idea that we need to surrender and be on the unknown. And like what you said, like we are both, I feel at this point, living in now. Like tomorrow is, I don't even know about tomorrow. And yet I'm fully here now. And here is where all the information is, where all the magic is. And yet to come to this point, it's been super scary to face every time another layer of seemingly unsafety. So I'm actually not sure if there's a question or also the statement of we're really calling in beings who are able to live in the now and in the unknown and find safety there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, please feel free to add anything to that point.
Yeah, I mean, this is really essential to alignment as well. This is essential to living coherently. I think really, I spent 15 years really sharing and facilitating and teaching this through my ministry, my global ministry, divinejoy.org. It is now since folded as of 3 years ago, so that I could fully let go of being a influencer, let go of being a, what I call the Insta shaman or the Insta Facebook, you know, one who's got all the answers, right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I did it for 15 years and I had to graduate from that, you know, because I died and I resurrected and I had to go through my process, and become MiraKle. But basically I would say that, you know, fully surrendering and allowing the infinite universe to act through you, to become you. And this is a total inner evolving process. And, you know, obviously we have to take care of bills and we have to, you know, pay for things and have a vehicle and a roof over our head if it's cold out. And, you know, but I think a big part of it is that there are many people right now having this dialogue of what it means to surrender. Where some people are being forced to surrender because they have no money and because of all the, you know, all the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, doubt, despair that's still hitting sort of the mainstream consciousness. But for those of us who are still on the leading edge, who are still sovereign, who are still choosing this path, you know, we have to continue to leap. We have to continue to pierce through the veils, even when very, you know, challenging things happen, when obstacles or obscurations come up for us, when energy and vibration isn't as harmonious any longer. There's the bandwidth. I like to tell people, like, the bandwidth maybe of several years ago, pre-corona, like you could still be in a bubble. You could have, you know, you could have brain heart coherence and you can have a lot more joy because the matrix was safe. Okay? Since this last couple of years, it's no longer safe any longer. For those of us who are awakening, it's not safe to be in a box. There are Orwellian forced energies coming in on all sides, whether you're in the waking, dream, and dreamless states, coming through 5G, coming through, you know, all this technology, coming through this artificial intelligence, coming through, you know, it's being targeted. Okay, so that being said, it's forcing us to say, okay, what are my alternatives and how can I surrender? How can I open up my heart, open my body, and link up with not only people, places, things, environments that are more aligned, but also surrender to it? And that means, either letting go of my material things, releasing obviously old psychological, emotional baggage. But the surrender aspect is very much an individual thing. And we can be inspired by others, but we have to do that inner work. And then we have to say, okay, how can I choose to be light as a feather? If my family environment, if my community environment is not supportive, if all these environments aren't supportive, then where can I go inside, right? Ultimately, you have to go inside to create a safe and secure environment through meditative practices. And sometimes, unfortunately, one cannot do that in their existing, created reality, and they have to leave. They have to physically leave. They have to move. They have to get to nature. They have to go to a place that's more supportive, that's safer and secure. But at the same time, you have to get to this point where we're all here to be a bridge. And what I was saying about the bubbles earlier is that the bandwidth between having safety in an environment and not is being compressed right now. So the point is like, no matter where you are on the earth, you're going to be dealing with unresolved shadow, because it's coming out in individuals who have not been awake for a long time. And it's happening in every single location all around this planet. It doesn't matter the country. It doesn't matter if you're in the jungles, or you're in the high Himalayas, or you're here in Mount Shasta, or you're on the beach somewhere on a tropical island. All of these areas, or you're in the middle of New York, or you're in the middle of London, or you're in the middle of Hong Kong, or somewhere in China. All these places are being challenged. Obviously, some are more challenging than others, but everything is being challenged because there is an agenda right now that's forcing people to change. So ultimately, all these really negative things are forcing us to change our habits. They're forcing us to change our behaviors and our belief systems so that we can own that we are individually, as source intelligence embodied, the most powerful frequency and vibration in this universe. Even in this omniverse, I would say. Because this world, this little tiny blue-green spinning planet, is rotating so quickly, okay, in our solar system, and our entire solar system is rotating even more accelerated, more quickly within our known Milky Way galaxy. And our Milky Way galaxy is also on an evolutionary ascension pattern with all the other hundreds of billions of galaxies in our universe. And our universe is also graduating. Okay? We've been living in a bipolar fallen universe. Okay? This whole universe is a bipolarity game. Okay? Especially in the 3D. But it's all the way up to the 11th D. Until you get to the 12th dimension, alright, this is why the 12 is so important, then you move beyond the bipolarity of the separation and duality that's in these dimensional timelines. All right? So that is the graduation code. That's why the 12, right, the faces of the stellated dodecahedron, and then we could even go deeper, the 12 strands of the DNA. All of these aspects are part of turning all of this negativity, all this carbon-based life forms, all this lead into all this toxicity, all this poison into a bioplasma, bliss phase, Christ consciousness, unified field, expansion into the most powerful being possible, which is us. The human being has been created to be the most powerful being in existence. It really has. I know this because it's inside of me, just like it's inside of you, and it's in all of you out there. So all these things that are creating this power within us can also be uncreated by other forces if we choose to be suggested by them. So it's the power of suggestibility. Accept, believe, and surrender. If we accept, if we believe and surrender what is handed to us, what is given to us, what is seemingly forced on us without exhibiting our power and saying no, right? So that we can be in a full yes, then these energies are going to continue to infiltrate us. and then we become the most disempowered being in the entire omniverse and in this universe. And this is really the edge right now that we're navigating right now, because we really don't know where things are going. All we know is that the more people who can surrender into the unknown and know that this is not it any longer, and literally put their hand to it, or both hands, and create the space to push that out and then rebirth themselves towards where they really desire at a soul level to go, then what happens is you turn all of that fear, uncertainty, doubt, and despair into this massive power of, energy and passion and love and connection and alchemy, of turning that lead into gold and turning that carbon into crystal and turning that toxicity and poison into, bliss phase biointelligence plasma. And with plasma, you can do anything. We're becoming bioplasma beings. And so that's really the future of the human race, is that we are literally going to be able to shift things immediately with our thoughts as we merge dimensional timelines. We're going to be able to parallel reality time shift. We're going to be able to teleport and exhibit telekinesis, and all these different things that we see in movies or that we've read about, that other masters have done. We're doing this now not as individual masters, but as a collective. And this is the future now.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Get so excited listening to you and really feeling this alternative pathway. So I believe that this is the journey we're all on, no matter how deep you're still in the matrix, let's say, and in the pandemic and in fear, or if you're finding your way out already, or in the more sovereign, free, unknown place in your life. So we do have we, of course, we have a specific invitation for anyone who resonates with it. So please share with us not just what's happening on the solstice, but also the invitation of the gathering after that. What you're seeing and feeling that wants to happen here at Shasta.
Yes, absolutely. So I've moved back to Mount Shasta about 6 months before the coronavirus hit. I was guided back from living in 3 different places: Singapore, Bali, and Hawaii. And since that time, we've been working on this project. I've been working on it since 2003, but I took a hiatus for 10 years. And so, I've been team building, and basically we've formed a series of slides, as well as working on the white paper and continuing to update our roadmap. But we've taken, since the end of last year, a little hiatus, a little break, because it was just a really, really amazing year to 2020, and we had a lot of things moving in the right direction. And then obviously coronavirus hit, and it just stopped everything cold in the project, and we were just trying to pick up the pieces throughout 2020. And so 2020 has been a more reflective time. It's been looking at how our personal lives, going back to some of our personal lives, the existing team, and just recently we've been coming back to the table. And I think really what it is you being here as well as me has been how can we actually open this up now and invite other people who are in alignment, 144% alignment, and who really feel and see themselves and are able to be in this bioregion of Mount Shasta, this spiritual vortex, and really feel like their protocols or their expanded mission at a soul star level is saying, this is what I'm here to do. And they're really willing to surrender. They're really willing to take, all of their life, so to speak, and relocate and really be present here. Not interested in people who are just trying to, come by for a weekend and get healing, or, want to do a pilgrimage to Mount Shasta. No, this is not happening.
They still can on their own, right? They still can.
Yeah.
It's beautiful here.
Yeah,
but this is not what we're calling.
There's plenty of people who do that already here,
Exactly.
and that's fine. I mean, Shasta has a lot to offer. But we're really looking at alignment. And I think with your vision that you shared of being guided here and letting go of all that you've been doing in your life was very inspiring, Stephanie. And to, I don't meet a lot of people who are willing to really follow the deeper, expanded guidance. And if the guidance says, hey, we're coming together, you need to show up. And sometimes you don't know, right? But you reached out, and I have a lot of people who try to contact me. That's why we, our website is still under wraps. We're still evolving it, but it's shareable to the right people. It's password protected. But if there's an alignment, then we open those doors. But otherwise, why would we bother? We don't have the time. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste your time. So really, it's like, to get really truthful and frank about it and direct, it's like, hey, if you're seeing what's happening with this planet, if you're seeing what's happening, and you have the resources, you have the capabilities, not just financially, but emotionally, psychologically, energetically, and with full alignment, and you would like to join us, yeah, we are actually calling in an incubator. We're calling in we're calling in a very sacred space to continue to do this work and apply the different aspects of the Coherent Living Model into the organization, and establishing the different thematic living pod curriculum. And this is definitely something that we are definitely calling in. And on top of that, we're also going to be offering, coming up here over the solstice, a gathering with aligned beings. And if you're interested in that, that's going to be happening from June 22nd to the 27th. So it'll be 5 nights at the end of this month.
Yes.
And there'll be more material about that coming out very soon. But that is the timeline right now. So that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do feel the call, if you do resonate with this invitation, or you want to know more and you're like, yes, I feel this, I feel aligned to this, you feel it in every cell of your being, then please do reach out, connect with us, and we can, or I can connect you to MiraKle, and we can feel if you are called here, we'll just know. So thank you so much. Thank you, MiraKle, for sharing all that you shared, bringing this forth, transmitting this throughout the World Wide Web, and thank you for watching. So much love to you all. Have a beautiful day.